Hi friends, and welcome back to my studio. My name is Tammy Ernest if you are new here, and I am a longarm quilter, and here on my channel I like to share customer finishes as well as my own personal projects, and I have so much to share with you today. So we are just over a week away from Maggie's wedding, and it is crazy. I'll just say it's just crazy. Things are happening and it's so exciting. Just a lot going on. First of all, you might be able to see on the long arm right there, we are making some checkerboards, like checkerboard, what I want to say, table toppers, for the reception. So if you've been here very long, you know that my family and I did a pumpkin patch, a U-Pick pumpkin patch for 19 years. This is what we did with our kids to teach them entrepreneurship and how to handle customers, how to be friendly, how to greet people, how to handle money, how to run a small business. This was kind of our little cottage industry that we did while the kids were young. And so we did that for 19 years. And a couple years ago, as the kids were all growing older and there wasn't as many of them to help anymore, we kind of phased it out. But it was a lot of fun. We called ourselves the proverbial pumpkin patch, and on every pumpkin that we raised, we would attach a little leaf that was a proverb from the Bible, and so everyone took home a little bit of God's word as they were picking their pumpkins, and we just had a great time. Anyway, so one of the things we always did every year is we had pumpkin checkers, and I actually brought the this is so faded because it sat out side every month or every October for however many years once I made this and we used it. So what we would do is people would come pick their pumpkins, but we also had small little games that families could play when they were here. The games didn't cost anything. It was just stuff to let them enjoy the farm, let them be out in the sunshine on an October afternoon. And so this is one of the things we did. And so I made this little checkerboard. I cannot even remember if I had a pattern that I followed. I really do not know. But we had this little checkerboard, and it would sit out on this little table. And then we always grew small little pumpkins. Now, this is the only one that I could find in the house right before I filmed. And this is one of those oddities that we would get, a couple of these every year where two of them had grown together. All the other pumpkins that we raised this year are already at the church waiting for Maggie's wedding because we're using them on all the decorations. So this is the only one I could find right now. But what we would do is we would set up pumpkin checkers, and we would have this out, and then we would have, these are called Jack Be Littles. Is that right? It's been a couple years. Jack Be Littles, and we would have the orange pumpkins on one side of the checkerboard. You said this one maybe a little big, but we would have these on this side of the checkerboard. On the other side, we did baby boos, and those are ones that are white but look exactly like this, and those were called baby boos. So we would have pumpkin checkers out, and families could enjoy that. So for Maggie's reception, she asked if I could make some checkerboards so that we could have those out for the reception. So actually, Maggie made the checkerboards. Her first time doing any piecing, any quilting, and she says, I'm never going to make a comment about anybody else's piecing again because it's not as easy as it looks. She did a great job though. She just went through my stash and pulled out fall colors, fall fabrics, and joined them together in a checkerboard. And so I am currently quilting those. We're only doing 4 of them because these are going to be like on some center tables, not the actual tables that people are eating at. But just on some center tables so people can come up and play checkers and that kind of thing with the checkerboards and the homegrown pumpkins. And I just think it's so fun that she has incorporated some of those things from the kids' childhood into her wedding. It's so fun. So I've got 4 of those going on, and then she's going to do the binding on those. I'm just doing the quilting. We did a lot of the shopping this week, brought all the food in. Next week we'll start making the pies. You saw where I did all the crust, and Maggie has and a friend have gotten all the apples in sliced up and everything. They're in the freezer right now in packets for each of the pies. And those are all apples that came down from Spencer's orchard when he was here a couple weeks ago for Maggie's bridal shower. So it's all coming together. Final dress fitting was this week, and we got the dress, and it's just all those last minute things. So it's a little crazy. But that's what I'm currently working on, is that. But you'll also remember that I was supposed to go to the Farm Girl Dry Goods retreat in Amana, Iowa, and I was so excited to go, and I just could not work it out. We've had a family member that's had surgery in the last couple weeks, and my husband had to be away helping them, which meant that somebody else had to take care of the animals because he normally takes care of the animals now. So I would take care of the animals when the kids were little. I would go out and do the animals that's when we only had chickens, is about the only thing we had back then, maybe a pig or two. But and then as the kids got older, each one of them took on the jobs of feeding the animals in the morning. And now that they're all moving out of the house, it's left to my husband, and then suddenly he had to be gone away from home helping a family member, and so then that left me to do the chickens. And so right now we have 3 cows, we have 2 goats, we have 3 chickens, a barn cat, and a dog. So I needed to be here. It just was, with all the craziness, I really hated missing the retreat. I moped. I moped for the first day and threw my own little pity party, and then it's like, no, we need to, it's just, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't get it done. And my husband needed to be where he was, and I needed to be here helping out with the things that were going on here. So I was certainly upset, but got over that, but I got a lot of sewing done. I just decided I had scheduled out those days to be gone on the retreat anyway, so I am just going to use this time to get some sewing done. So that's what I have to share with you today. So first of all, let me show you. I have not mentioned this for a while, but I have an online Quilt Circle membership, and this is for isolated quilters who don't have any sewing buddies, and you want to be a part of a group that this is virtual. You want to be a part of a group where you can find inspiration and encouragement and motivation and just community with other quilting buddies. So this is an online group. I've not opened it up for a while, and because of the wedding and things, I've kind of bumped back when I'm going to open it up again, but I do plan on opening it up sometime in November, once we get through the wedding, and then I'll kind of look at my schedule for November. But I usually open it up for a long weekend, maybe like a Thursday through a Monday or something like that. Open it up, allow new members to be a part, and then I'll close it up and just have those members that are currently in, previous members that are currently in, and new ones for about 6-8 months or so before I open it up again. I only do it a couple times a year. That way the group becomes very cohesive. We get to know one another. There's not a lot of influx in and out. But we get a good group together. And I like to open it up prior to the first of the year, because usually the first of the year, that's kind of a reboot. We'll start a new quilt along. We'll start new challenges for each month, and it's just a good time of year to get going. But I want new members to be already up to speed by the time we hit January. So I will be opening it up in November. And the reason I was holding up this pattern is because right now this is our current quilt along inside Quilt Circle, and we are doing Joyfield. We are on the very last blocks, so there are 6 different blocks. Let me look just to make sure that I'm saying that correctly. Yes, there are 6 different blocks, but you're making multiples of all of them, in some multiples. Sometimes there's only 2, sometimes there's 3, and as we get smaller, there's more and more. So right now we are working on our very last blocks, which are block number 6, which are these just, I don't know if she has a name for them. What would I call them? Nope, she just calls them block 6. They're kind of like, just little twinkle blocks. I don't know what we call them. Super easy to make. They're not very big at all, but there are like 9 of them, 7 of them in the entire quilt. So we have tried to make this so it's not overwhelming to the members in the group, because everybody's working on their own projects as well. But if they're part of the quilt along, they usually have a couple blocks each week that they're doing. And so right now we're in the midst of several weeks where we're making 2 blocks each week of this block number 6. I don't have all of mine done, but This is one of the projects that I worked on this past week, and I am using American Gatherings by Lisa Bonjean. So I have these all stacked up here, so I'll just show them to you. So for these blocks, you're using fabrics that you already have used earlier in the quilt on bigger blocks, and this is some of the pieces of the fat eighth. I do believe it was a fat eighth bundle, yeah. So these are pieces that are left from all those different fat eighths that you've already used larger sections of it, and now you just need smaller pieces. So all of these fabrics have been used elsewhere in the quilt. So I'm doing these in mostly some of the darker reds and blues. I have two of those blues. You saw that one just a minute ago, and here's another one. And then the red star one. So fun. So I have, what, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those done. So I just have a couple more of those to do. They went together super, super fast. The other block, block number 5, I still need to finish up. I think block number 5, there were 8 of these, and this is what I only have 3 done of these. They're not super hard to make. These are hourglass units on each of the corners, and I do like to make my hourglass units where you're making half square triangles and then laying those half square triangles on top of each other and stitching across the diagonal or next to the diagonal on both of those and then cutting it back apart. And so that's how you create these. And it just so happens with this directional print with all those state names, because I'm making 4, 2 of them end up this direction and 2 of them end up this direction, which is just perfect for this little block. So I have that one, and a lot of these star blocks, they're in the lower volumes because that's the fat eighths that I had left from that bundle. I'd used a lot of the darker colors in earlier blocks, and so a lot of these are a little more of the, this one you might consider a medium, but some others are more low volume. And then here's another one of those state ones with the red. So cute. So cute. So I do have some more of those to finish up. That was block number 5. I'm going backwards here. Block number 4, I know I've shown you some of these. I now have all 3 of these done. These are a lot of fun. A really neat pattern that develops just from doing flying geese units, 2 flying geese units, but doing one where the background print is the lighter color with the darker triangles on the sides, and then this one, the background is the darker with the light ones on the corners, and so that's how you get that whole effect right there. So fun. This one has the state names in it. I like that. This one I couldn't get, you know, I couldn't get all the names to go the right direction. I could if I made more blocks, but I just didn't. So some of the names are a little off. I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot in the end. And then that's my 3rd one. I think I've shown you that one before. So this is our current quilt along. We have not even started discussing the new quilt along coming along in January, but we'll pick some projects. So we did 2 quilt alongs this year inside Quilt Circle. Each month I have a challenge, and this year we've done a pre-cut and panel challenge. So what that means is each month I pick a pre-cut with some sort of theme, and they are to create a project from that. And then they post those on our private platform. I do host this on Circle, very similar to Facebook in some ways, but it's totally private. No one else can get in, but you can message people back and forth. You can post pictures. We can have conversations. We have live events where we get together and discuss things like this that are you know, our quilt alongs or our challenge. We do a live show and tell each month as well. So just a lot of fun. We do have a Quilts of Valor initiative that's been so productive this year. I think our Quilts of Valor chairperson, what do I call her? Coordinator. our Quilts of Valor coordinator told us recently that she had enough blocks donated to make 6 Quilts of Valor quilts. So they are currently being quilted and are pieced and quilted. So the blocks have all been sent in. So how that works is our coordinator decides on a block that she wants each of us to make for a 3-month period. And then we send those to her. She bundles them together, sends them on to another member. that then pieces those blocks together into a quilt of valor, and then it goes on to somebody else to be long armed and bound, and then back to the coordinator so that she can gift that to a deserving service member. So that's part of our quilt circle as well, plus all just the chats back and forth and to find friendly folks. It's so fun. We are going to start a cross stitch quilt along in the new year as well. I'm super excited about that. So just a lot of activities. You don't have to be involved in all of it. But pick and choose the parts that you want to be involved, but there's plenty of motivation and encouragement and community there. So all of that to say, if this is something you'd be interested in, I do have a wait list, and if you're on that wait list, you'll be the first to be notified when that Quilt Circle membership does open. So if that's all of interest to you, then you'll want to find the link down below and just enter your email address, and you'll be notified in November when that opens up. So that's one of the projects that I worked on this past week, was some of my blocks for the Joy-Filled Quilt Along. And you'll notice my pattern is signed by Corey Yoder because she was here locally to me a couple months, maybe a month or so ago. So that was exciting. Another project that I worked on, I got caught up on my temperature quilt. Yay! So I'd gotten a couple months behind on this, and so I had through July done, and I needed to do August and September. If you're not familiar with this, this is a free pattern by Fat Quarter Shop. A temperature quilt is a way of recording I'm doing high temperatures. It's a way of recording the high temperatures in your area for the entire year. You could do average temperatures, you could do low temperatures, whatever you want to do. But it's just a way of a pictorial representation of the temperatures in your area for the entire year. And I love the houses. Temperature quilts were not something I was ever, they just didn't appeal to me at all until I saw this pattern, and that is up my alley. I like that. That's funny. Up my alley, having to do with houses. All right, so what I wanted to show you first before I show you my block, I just go onto a weather.gov or something like that website, and I find the high temperatures and print those out. I am using all Essex linen, and I picked this at the beginning of the year. They give you the ranges for each of the temperatures, and then you pick a color fabric that you want to go in that. So I had two Fat Quarter bundles, one in the darker colors and one in the more pastel colors. I had two Fat Quarter bundles, and that's what I'm using, all Essex linen. And then I have some white background linen, and then also some brown for the houses, the roofs and things like that. So this is, nope, let me go in order. August. I need August first. All right, so this is August. Back it up a little bit. So the house itself has 30 blocks. So anytime that there's a month that has 31 days, then you get to do a tree, and the tree also is part of the high temperature. So this is 31st day of the month. This is the high temperature for the 31st day of the month. So here in Indiana, all the pink ones represent the high 80s. You can see these a little lighter pink, and then it changes shade just a tad little bit. Those are, that gets into the 90s. So upper 80s, 90s. And then the oranges, you drop back down. The brown, let me see, this is in the low 80s. The oranges drops down into the high 70s, and you can see it got a little back and forth. You know, we're going to be in the 70s or the 80s. And then this one, my goodness, has dropped down into the low 70s. So a couple days, we're kind of like all over the place. Can you see that? Just kind of all over the place until you get to the very last day of the month. No. This would have been the 30th of the month, because this is the 31st. July 30th was between 96 and 100, and that's the only one so far. It probably will be, because September and October we didn't get that hot. So just a tick behind that, this little bit of a purpley pink color. It may be hard to see the difference. This one is the high 80s, and then this one is the high 90s. So kind of showed you where, we had a whole week in the 70s here, or 80s. What was that one again? Low 80s, high 70s, drop back in the low 70s, and then what's the color? So the pink is in the high 80s. Yeah, okay. So I know some people kept saying it's been so hot. I think it was humid, but really looking at the high temperatures, we didn't have crazy hot days. I mean, we had a whole week of in the lower ones, and then maybe a week here, the last week of January, but man, that's what I dream for all winter long, are those hotter days. All right, and then this is September. September only has 30 days, so there's no tree on this one. So just pretty much the same, back and forth. Pinks are a little hotter, the oranges and yellows are a little cooler, so back and forth. Now, many of you know 2024 has been a super exciting year for the Ernest family. So what I have decided to do, because we've had births, we've had weddings, we've had major weather events. I mean, we had the eclipse come right over Indiana. We lost one of our favorite childhood trees back when Hurricane Helene. All we had was wind and rain, nowhere near the devastation that others, but it was we lost one of our biggest trees in our yard that the kids have always played on. We've had tire swings. We had a pallet bed that hung from it for a while. I mean, it's just one of those iconic trees in our yard. So we did lose that when Helene came through Indiana. And so those are the things that I want to record on my temperature quilt. So this is September, so little Dallas was born September 28th, so that would have been right here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to either cross stitch or embroider some little initials is what I've decided to do. I'll do his little initials, you know, DCE would be his initials, maybe his weight or something like that, but just at least the initials. On the weddings, that's what I'll do for the weddings as well. I'll put, for October, it'll be Maggie and Spencer's initials on the day that they got married, or will be getting married. And the other thing I'm going to do, I didn't bring this block with me, but the April block is when the eclipse came over, and I had actually used some cotton fabric to create on the April the 8th, and I think I'm going to swap that out and do it the regular temperature, but then actually either embroider or cross stitch some little sun motif, maybe a half and half. I'm going to look through some cross stitch motifs and see if I can't find something that way. Because I always felt like that block just kind of stuck out, and I didn't quite like that. So I'm going to switch that block out and then do all the just their initials on all the different things. Somewhere on here I do want to put 2024. I haven't decided. I may wait and figure that out once I get the whole quilt top together, but this is crazy. We already have 9 months of it done. I only have October, November, December, 3 more to go. So I'm loving this. It's really fun. I don't know that I would use linen on a quilt that I was going to snuggle up with on the couch. It just has that rougher feel. But other than that, you know, I kind of like it for this quilt. And I don't know, I might do this quilt again next year. I haven't decided. It's not too hard to do. But that is my September block. So I'm all caught up on my temperature quilt, pretty close to getting my joy-filled quilt finished, pieced together as well. I'm working on the checkerboard blocks, and I did get some cross stitch done. Since I wasn't able to go on the retreat, I did work on a little bit of my cross stitch, and I have something else I wanted to show you. So Fat Quarters Shop reached out and asked if I would be interested in getting a spooky box. I have never gotten a spooky box before. I've always done the sampler box. I did do the Liberty box that was back in July, and I said, sure, I'd love to have one. So they sent me the spooky box, so I wanted to show you what was inside this. These are still available. They were pre-order at a lower price. And now that you know what's in the kit or in the box, you can still order it. I would hurry because they're not going to be there very long, but you can order it. And then maybe it's something you want to be a part of next year. So here's the card on the front. There is a coupon on the back. So Spooky Box Limited Edition 2024. Some cute items in here. Now, if you know me very well, you know I do not celebrate Halloween per se. Our family always does autumn. We love harvest time, but not all the spooky, scary things at all. So So I was a little nervous, I guess. You know, I was like, I don't know if these are going to be things that I am going to enjoy or not, but I really like them. So the first of all was this little pumpkin sleeve. This is for your rotary cutter, and I need this because, oh, you can't see it right now, but behind me on my cart that I roll around this room, I keep my rotary cutter in there. And it's invariably, you know, do you have a rotary cutter that it doesn't always stay shut all the way? And I've never cut myself. But this is extra insurance that I'll be able to slip that inside here. It does have a little grommet, is that what it's called? So this could be hooked on something else. You could use it for, it's meant for rotary cutters, but it obviously could be used for scissors or something as well. It's a hard, it's pliable, but it's harder than a glasses case, I guess is what I want to say. So it's super cute. I love the pumpkins on that. Then matching that is this cute little tin. Now inside the tin, it's got a little top on it. Pull this off. These are bobbin keepers. So what this does, and so you have a spool of your thread, whatever color you're using, and then you can slip this into your spool and then you can hook your bobbin on the top. And I think this is a great idea because I have bobbins. When I wind my own bobbins for the Longarm machine, I have bobbins just sitting around. So I'll be able to hook the bobbin with the color of cone it goes with. Let me grab a cone, see if this works. Here's a red that I used recently. So this is a little big. Oh, it may not work on the larger spools. It may be better for your smaller cones. Or smaller. This is it would work on this spool. Whew. Lots of dust there. So it would work on a smaller spool like this. It's not going to come out because that that piece expands right there. So you push it in and it's not going to come out. So smaller spools like this, it does not necessarily work on one that has the larger one. But these would be especially nice for your sewing machine if you have smaller spools of thread, and you can hook these on there and hook the bobbin with it. Look at all the colors in the tin: orange, black, and white. So you can either keep these in the tin or you could use the tin for something else and have that, oops, I got it whopper jawed. And have that part of fall decorations. So cute. Another thing in there is the candle. I have not burned this yet. This is clementine and spruce. I have not burned it yet because I wanted to show it to you first. So cute, a lot of fun. That doesn't go in there. Let me put that over here. Probably, oh, that smelled good. Now I had it open, it smelled good. Probably my favorite thing in the whole box is this vintage trim by Lori Holt. Look at that color. I love this color. Actually, Maggie saw that and she says, I may be able to use that on the bridesmaids bouquets. She's doing all live flowers for the bridesmaids bouquets that they're carrying, eucalyptus and things like that. So she was already spying this. But it's cute. I love the shade of this orange. It's not the bright orange, it's a little more of a muted. So I love that. That's the large vintage trim in the pumpkin color by Lori Holt. Then in classic Sew Sampler box type themes, there is always a pre-cut, and this is Maywood Studios Pumpkins and Potions. This is Fat Quarter Bundle. So oranges, I like the color orange on these. Oranges, there's a couple low volumes, and then the blacks and the grays. Now this does have some, it's called Potions and Pumpkins, you know, so it does have some witches and some bats and things like that. Let me show you first. This is the pattern that came with it. Oops. Yeah, this is called Witchy Manor. This is 40 by 43. And then it also uses this candy corn template, triangle in a square template. So you can use this to make those rooftops you see on the houses. There are some bats in the corner. I think you could totally make this without the bats and just make it a regular house. I think that'd be really cute. And I like this. This is a triangle in a square candy corn. So you can make it whatever sizes you need because it's got different sizes marked on here. I think this would be super cute to layer 3 colors, the 3 colors from a candy corn, sew those in strips and then cut your triangles like that. Wouldn't that be a cute quilt? A candy corn quilt. I love that. So I'll be able to use that and the pattern. But what I think I'm going to do with this fat quarter bundle, I think I'm going to make a project bag for fall cross stitch. I think that would be really cute. Just cut these into smaller squares and do it more like a patchwork type bag. I think that would be really cute. So love that. So if you're liking the things you're seeing in this spooky box, you'll want to grab one for yourself very quickly. I appreciate Fat Quarter Shop sending me one of these boxes so that I could share them with you. A lot of cute stuff. I love the pumpkin stuff, the candle. As soon as I'm done here, I'm going to go light it in the kitchen so that we can smell that. It's so fun. So I appreciate Fat Quarter Shop sending me one of these boxes, and you will want to get one for yourself. All right, let's move on to some customer quilts. Carol made this beautiful quilt, and she said she created the pattern herself. She was inspired by a layer cake, and she used every bit of the layer cake that she absolutely could. So she did a great job. All she did was, this looks like about a 5-inch square, and then she surrounded each square with a different color fabric, put a white sashing throughout the blocks, and then put a border and a binding on it. So very cute. I love the fabrics on this. She said the fabrics are Camelot, Prairie Days, the green and white check that you see, the gingham around the edge. I thought there was some in the quilt too. That is Spring Garden by Riley Blake. The wide border that you see, it's very cute because it's almost like a half square triangle print, all the little half square triangles. She said that one is called Timeless, that one is called Charisma by Timeless Treasures. So those are all the names of the fabric lines that she used. There are birdhouses, there are florals, there are gingham inspired, tiny lines. That one set on point, so it's very cute on the diagonal. Lots of florals, small ones, large ones, and just so cute. Quilting does not have to be hard. Simple and pretty. And then the backing fabric, she said she wasn't completely happy with the backing fabric, but all the other ones that matched the lines that she had used on the front were taken. I think it looks great. I think it's the same colors, the pinks and the yellows and the greens from the front. It's very cute. She even used on the backing, used absolutely every little bit left of that layer cake. As you can see, she made a pieced border across the middle using the green gingham that she used on the binding as well. That kind of ties the whole thing together. And then just little strips of the layer cake that she had left, she created almost like stepping stones or piano key type of design all across the middle. Great job. She used up every bit of fabric that she could, and she did a wonderful job. This quilt measures 62 by 73, really nice size. You do notice that we did the binding on this one as well, and she included that for us to work on. And then Pantograph. The Pantograph that she chose is called Rosie, and here is a printout of what it looks like. I'll show you that up close a little bit. Very cute. So it has the rose in the middle, it has some flowers, so very meander type feel, no tricky points. It does nest up into each other. You can see the orange lines here are where the other row is, and that's how you can tell what the pass looks like. So the orange lines above show you that that's the previous row. The orange lines down here show you that that's the row that comes after. So you can see how it nests up inside each other. I like pantographs that are like that. Sometimes you'll find pantographs maybe the same design, but it's a complete rectangle across here, and I think those you can tell a little bit more. when you're stitching it out. Once it's stitched out, you can kind of tell where those lines are. Sometimes it's hard to get them close enough where they kind of mesh together. So I like a pantograph like this that kind of just a little bit, it's not huge, but just goes up a little bit into the row above it, and then the row below it comes up into that a little bit. It just makes a more cohesive pantograph. So very cute, and still no fussy lines to measure, to match up. It's not like you're trying to select a point. So you do have some wiggle room in here. If you're newer to the digital long arm quilting, even if you're older, there's still, I enjoy, it's easier to do a pantograph that doesn't have any fussy points to it and still looks incredible. But sometimes you do those fussy points anyway. But really cute. This is called Rosie, and I did use the natural white thread in the Omni thread. The fabrics on this one and the sashing, you've got that bright solid white print, and so did the pantograph in white. The roses itself, I would say a little bit bigger than you see on the printout. Did it a little bit bigger, not a whole lot, but just a tad bit bigger than that. I like the chunkiness of this rose, very full, and with a little spiral center that gives you that middle part, and then the leaves that span out. Really cute, very fun, and really with that busy backing, you don't even see it on the backing. Very cute. Carol did a great job. And Carol's second quilt today is called Runway Strut, and this is a pattern by Robin Pickens. Isn't this fun? This is fat quarter friendly, and the pattern comes in 3 sizes: lap, twin, and queen size. So this one here measures 73 by 84, which I'm assuming is the twin one. I didn't look at that super close, but I'm assuming that's the twin size. So fat quarter friendly. Lots of negative space. You can see just over the ridge there, lots of negative space with those arrows. And let me pull in the bottom. You can see the half square triangles that create those arrowhead shapes, and that's what's in the middle here too. Then you've got the larger arrows, got some just straight lines. The fabrics, she said, are Kona solids, but then also some Northcott prints on here. So a lot of them read as solids until you get up close. This one has like direction, lines, almost like paint splatter lines all across it. This one does too. And then you have solids. It looks like all the prints are in the same line. They're just different colors of that same line. So they just have like paint splatter lines across that. And she did say this is for a guy, and I think this is a great quilt. It does have bright colors, but it can be more manly, and I think they would really like this. A little peach thrown in here and there. In the larger parts here, there's an arrow there in the peach. Really cute, but I love this large negative space too. So the backing fabric is just a white solid. Very fun. So for the pantograph, Carol asked that I use Good Vibrations, but this is the offset version. So Good Vibrations I've used before, mainly I've used it on some patriotic quilts because it's just a wave that goes across. This one is called Good Vibrations Offset, so that some of the lines are closer, some of the lines are farther apart, almost, not continuous waves, or not consecutive waves. What do I want to say? Not consistently the same length apart. So I like this. I think it's really cute. It adds a lot of movement to this quilt with the arrows, a lot of texture, but still in a manly sort of way. For the thread on this one, I started with cream. When I was doing my basting stitches, I started with cream because I thought some of the fabrics are a little darker. and I just thought it would be better. But when I was doing the basting stitches, I felt like the cream was making the quilt look a little dirty. It just made it, it dimmed it too much. It made it look a little dirty. So I went ahead and went with a white thread, and I think that was a perfect choice. It really adds a lot of texture on the fabrics here. It's not too bright, you know, on the darker colors. I think it adds a lot of interest on those darker colors, and I really like that one. This one, and then you can see on the back. When you pull this one into your Pro Stitcher, it's an extended width pantograph, and so that what that means, it's already as wide as you would need it. You're not having to repeat the pattern horizontally to get enough enough width to go across the quilt, and so you really have to trim it down to the size that you need because it's called an extended width. It does stitch out right to left. Yeah, it stitches out right and it goes across left and comes back right and goes across left. So it will stitch out this entire section, you know, like right here, like that entire black lines. It will do all of that back and forth, back and forth. So it's not just doing one line and then you have to move your head back. It is doing it'll go all the way to the right, go all the way back left, all the way. So it'll do that entire amount. So you just need to make sure that that entire amount is in your throat space. What I do like about that is that it's not fussy. It can be going for, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. I don't know, however long it took to go across that pass. What you do have to watch for, though, is that you don't have auto jump on, because when you get back to this last line, because the last stop point ends over here on your left hand side, and that means your next start point is also on the left hand side. If you have your auto jump feature where it automatically goes to the next starting point, on Pro Stitcher, you can set it for how far, you know, you can do an auto jump if it's within an inch. You can do an auto jump if it's within 3 inches, you know, but it's not going to do an auto jump from the right side of the quilt all the way to the left. But because this one, your ending point is on the left side and your starting point is on the left side, they're within very close amount together. So I had to make sure that my auto jump was set to 0 because I did not want this to start across and I not have enough throat space to continue another whole pass through there. So most pantographs, like let me pull in this rosy one. The rosy one, it starts on the left-hand side, is my start point. My end point is over on the right-hand side. So when it gets over here, even if my auto jump is set to 6, it's not going to jump all the way back across the entire quilt. That's too far for it to go. And that's usually, actually, this machine is always set on auto jump is at 0. My other machine, the auto jump is always set at 6. That's the way this one was programmed when I got it, and I just haven't changed it. I did stitch it out on this machine over here to my left, and so I had to go in to my auto jump settings and make sure it was set to 0 because I did not want it to start that next pass across and then run into the bars when it, you know, if it came down here. So just be aware of that. I like the fact that it stitched out, you know, 10 rows before I had to come back and do anything. Not all pantographs are set up that way. Sometimes you have it start on the left and it ends on the right and you got to pull it back and start it. There are ways in the program to swap lines so that you can have a start point and an end point and then have a start point and an end point. And you'll have to figure out your own program to know how to work that in. But that is a feature that's on there. But sometimes when you're first starting out, it's just easier just to learn a pattern and pull that machine all the way back to the left. But just be aware of that. This is called an extended width pantograph, and there are others out there like that. You'll notice when you pull it into your program that it'll just look like this big mass of lines because it's extending across the entire area that you've set up. So then what I do is, you know, I set my area for my quilt and I repeat my pattern. It's already extended beyond the width side to side, so then I repeat my pattern so it fills in my area top to bottom, and then I go in and do a crop and I crop to the edges of my area, which on my computer is still wider than my actual quilt top. I like to stitch off the edges. And then, so I crop the area outside of that, and be sure to baseline after you do that, and then you're ready to start. I do save my workspace on my machines as well, on the tablet. Not onto the tablet itself, it actually saves it to the USB stick, but I do save my workspace because like I had an incident a couple weeks ago when the hurricane came through, that my machines, we're in Indiana, so it was just wind that we had, and it wasn't a lightning storm, so I really didn't think anything about running my machines during the rain. It was just wind. In a lightning storm, I always shut down my machines, unplug everything, because I don't want lightning to strike. But when those winds came through, I was not even thinking that wind was going to cause a problem. Well, wind knocked the electricity. It flickered it. We never were without for very long, but it flickered in the middle of running my machines, and it shut everything down. Then it booted it back up, and I'm like, that's enough. So once it came back up, I shut everything down normally, unplugged everything, and said I'm done till after that wind is done coming through. But because I had my workspace saved, the next day when I was able to start again, I just pull up that workspace, I reposition to the correct point on my quilt, and I'm able to go again. So I do save those workspaces. I do save them for a while. When I was only working one machine, I probably saved them a lot longer than I needed to, just because I would refer back to the size of the pantographs. When I label a workspace in my on my Longarm, I label it with the client's name, and then I label it, so in the whole description, not in the description, but in the label of it, what do you call it, the file name, I will have I have a folder for the client. So inside that folder, then I will have the name of the quilt, I will have the month and year that I'm working on it, and then I will also have the pantograph. And I usually, if I have changed the height of the pantograph, I will usually note that in the file name also. So I'll just abbreviate HT for height 4 or something, so that when I'm working on another quilt, want to use the same pantograph, I have a note in there that this is what I did this quilt as. Over time, I've done less and less of that I kind of, I've used pantographs enough that I kind of remember the sizes of some. And so I'll keep those workspaces in there for a while, and then I delete them out and clean out that. I don't want there to be so much on that USB stick that it slows down the machine or anything like that. But I do save my workspace so that if I need to come back the next day, or it gets too late at night and I've got to shut things down, or, you know, things happen, I save my workspace so that I can come back to that instead of having to recreate the whole thing. I can pull up that workspace and then just reposition to the quilt I'm working on, and I can go from there. So that is Carol's quilt, and I love it. This is Marsha's quilt, and this is a special quilt because she's made this for a friend whose son died in a military accident recently. So she has taken a panel here in the middle. She's added a skinny black border, and then she's done red, white, and blue either direction. So the red is the inner one of those, and then white and then blue around the edge. Really, really pretty. She did add stars on each of the 4 corners. Now you're seeing the batting because this literally just came off the Longarm, and I have not trimmed up the edges yet. So the panel in the middle says Patriot, Patriot for the love of liberty, country, and freedom. It is absolutely gorgeous. Not seen this one before. It is a Marines panel. And then USA, we are one at the top, the United States Marine patches on here, the eagle, So, so pretty. Very honoring for her friend. Be really nice. The backing fabric she picked is this blue. I don't have details on the fabric, but you can see that there. Very nice. The Pantograph, this is a new one. When I was meeting with, Marsha is local to me, so when I was meeting with her, I said, oh, Marsha, I have this new Pantograph that I found that I've been wanting to use, and I think this will be the perfect quilt. This is called Ribbon Star. So it has like a half a circle with a star inside, and then you have the same thing underneath. I did use a light gray thread on this one. Now this Pantograph, I feel, this is the first time I've stitched it out. I did make this so the circle, the star itself is probably 3 inches, 2.5, 3 inches tall. Because this was a panel, I really didn't want to do too tight of quilting. I really wanted you to notice the panel and not so much the quilting on this one until you got in closer. I wanted it to be a nice complement to the quilt top without just overpowering the whole pattern. So you see the 8 pointed stars here in the corner, and I wanted to make this star just a tad bit smaller than that. And not that it's going to sit right over the top anyway. I always like to offset my design. So even when I'm pulling it into my Pro Stitcher or whatever program you have, when I set my area, let me set this back up here. So when I'm first starting a quilt and I have it basted down, then usually what I do is I will go up to the top left-hand corner and I will use my area feature, and I will push 2 corner. So I will push that as my first corner, and then I take it all the way down as I can, the farthest bottom right corner that I can do while it's just that throat space, and push 2 corner again. And that will give me the width of my quilt top, and then I've already measured the length of my quilt top, and so I know how much it is. Now I always go outside of the boundaries. I'm one that I like to stitch off of the quilt top into that batting and the backing. And so like even this, you can see this white part here at the edge, that's the batting, and I have stitched out another inch beyond that. I have learned over time that a lot of times quilt tops are not square, and I can load it on the long arm and it may shift this direction a little bit or that direction a little bit, or you know, some borders may be wider than the center of the quilt or something like that. So I have just learned to make my area larger, a little wider than the quilt top, and I always make my area longer than the quilt top is also. Then when I pull a design into that area, I fill the whole area. So I will make the area the size of my entire quilt. I will pull the design into there, and then when I get it the size that I want, I will adjust that Pantograph to the size that I want when I only have one of the motifs in there or one of the designs in there. When I have it the size that I want, then I will push fill. It may be whatever it's called on your digital program. I will push fill, and what that does is it fills up the area, but it does not go beyond the area. It'll repeat the design as many times horizontal and many times vertical as will fit inside that area, and I don't want it just to fit inside the area. So then I go and I increase the number of repeats so that it goes outside the area, and then so that it also goes outside the area vertically as well. Now remember, my area I've already set larger than my quilt top, because I have taken, you know, when I created the area, I made it, you know, a good inch beyond the quilt top here, and lengthwise too. I've made my area larger than I know my quilt top is. So then I do my repeats even larger than that area. And I don't typically like a design, now this one's pretty close, but I don't typically like a design to start right at the top. I like it to be, you know, and you can see this one's fairly close, but I would probably even prefer to move this up a little bit so that you're seeing about half that star on that first line. That's personal preference. You can do whatever you like, but I just like I don't want it to be perfectly started on the top and then I get to the bottom and it's not. I prefer my design to fall off all sides, to trim it up, and then it just looks like the Pantograph is across there. And I don't try to reduce my design so that you get the perfect edges on each one. So say I'm doing a cat. I will not shrink my design so that I get the full body of a cat at the very sides, or top and bottom. I don't care about that. I want the design to be a nice size, and I want it to flow off all sides of the quilt. So I set my design larger, and then I will do my crop feature. So my area is already larger than my quilt. I know that. And then I repeat the design so it even goes larger than that area. Once I have it the way I want, I have enough repeats, I've shrunk the lines down to where I want them, then I will use the crop feature, and I will crop on the outside of my area. My area is already set. My area is larger than my quilt top. It's out to here, but then I will crop outside of that on all sides. I'll hit crop and I'll tell it outside, and then it cuts that design exactly to the area that I have set, which I already know is larger than my quilt top. So not trying to beat that to death, but I just want you to understand I'm setting my design larger than the quilt top. Then it stitches out. It's going beyond both sides. At the top, it's just going a little bit over the top because I'm trying to fit that quilt as close to the top of the backing fabric as I can. But then it stitches that out. It's cropping on the outside of that area, so it's really only going about an inch beyond the quilt top. And then when I trim up the quilt, everything trims up just fine. I like that. Preferred to getting to the bottom of the quilt, and I've had it, my area set exactly to the width of my quilt. And then if it shifts at all, then I've got parts of my quilt that are not stitched. I know there's other ways to do it. I know other designers, other long arm quilters do it differently. This is the way that I started. This is the way that I have always done it, the way I prefer to do it. I don't like to set it so it exactly ends at the quilt edge. It's just not the way I like to do it. So that's a little bit of explanation there. If you have any questions, send me an email or put it in the comments. And again, I know that's not going to be the way everybody does it. That's just the way that I prefer to do it. And it works for me. So this is Marsha's quilt. I don't know if I mentioned, I did use light gray thread on this one. Really just wanted that panel to shine. And that is Omni by Superior Threads, Omni in light gray, and then I did use pre-wound bobbins in a light gray on the back. I do use Magna Glide pre-wound bobbins most often. So that's Marsha's quilt. This quilt is Terry's, and Terry receives the Sew Sampler box from the Fat Quarter Shop, and this pattern and fabric was in the June 2024 Sew Sampler box. I still have mine. The pattern is called Peach Preserves. This is done by Krista Moser. It was designed and written by Krista Moser. It does use the fabric line Jelly and Jam by Joanna Figueroa, and this is a honey bun, meaning those are 1.5 inch strips. And isn't that cool? I don't know that I really, until I pulled this out, I didn't really realize that those were 1.5 inch strips. And the other thing about this pattern is it uses this Creative Grids ruler. This is the 60-degree diamond tiny. There is a larger one. I think you can see that. And so this quilt is created in strips. You're sewing the honey bun strips together and then cutting it using this ruler, then creating the hexagon shape. Do you see the hexagon right there? So you're creating it in strips like that, and then adding putting the parts together to make the hexagon. That's all explained in this pattern. Now this pattern is not available except through the Sew Sampler box, and so that is not going to be available to you, but there are other patterns that Krista Moser has written. She loves to use these the rulers like this, specialty rulers, and so you'll want to check out Krista Moser. She is a really neat designer. So this one measures 43 by 47, if I didn't say that already. And then the backing fabric, I believe, is part of that same line. It's it's a low volume. I really like this one. This would be great to have on hand, even a bolt of this to use as a low volume print. It's a white, not a bright white, but a white with just tiny taupe dots on it, 4 dots together and then other ones scattered throughout. I think it's a really pretty low volume to have on hand. The pantograph on this one is called Wave on Wave. Maybe you'll be able to see it on the back a little bit better. And you see that sometimes whites are difficult. So Wave on Wave, it has a spiral that comes to a point, and then as the spiral comes out, it has one little paisley print, another spiral, and then it does a whole paisley or feathers kind of built on top of each other, and then it spins back out again. Love this. The cream thread is Omni thread by Superior Threads, and I like the cream. The front of it, your fabrics are a little more on the cream side, not on the bright white, and then the back, that cream looks really good, just adds the texture into there. Love the texture on this one. Now I noticed on the pattern, when I pulled the pattern out, you can see that they just did straight lines on the quilting. And I did have, I did hear from some others one time that Krista Moser likes to do just straight lines on her quilts, because that way people can repeat that same design very easily. It's kind of difficult when they do a pattern and there's some pantograph on there that you're unsure what it is and people want to make it just like that. So this will kind of give you a difference in looking. This is what it looks like with straight lines. Very pretty. Kind of gives it a little more modern feel with those straight lines. And then this is what it looks like with more of a spiral, little softer look like that. Very pretty. And the design really shows up on those melon color fabrics. So very pretty. And that is Terry's quilt. Next, I have Trish's quilt. Do you recognize this? This is the Quilted Witch, which is a pattern by Lori Holt, but the original pattern is much, much larger. The original pattern, I think, measured about 75 by 90. And Trish said she loved the Quilted Witch, but she did not have, she wanted to make it a wall hanging and knew that the size of the witch that is on the pattern itself, on the original pattern, was too large and she didn't have any wall space for that. So the Quilted Witch pattern, the entire quilt measures about 75 by 90. So in looking at the pattern, so if you say the witch takes up 2/3 of that area, so if it's 75, so maybe 50 of it tall and or wide, and if it's 90, say 60 of it. So the witch part of that quilt measures about 50 by 60, and Trish said that was just too big. So what she did is had the pattern and she cut everything in half. So if it was a 2.5 inch square, she cut it at 1.25 inch square. So when you do that, when you take your measurements and cut them in half, it actually gives you a quilt that is 1/4 of the size. So her final quilt measures 25 by 32. So if you think about it, if the original pattern where the witch measures 50 by 60, let's say, I'm just guessing, you know, kind of taking some estimates there. 50 by 60, this measures 25 by 32. So if you can picture 50, you would have 2, right? You could fit 2 25 wide on there. And if it's 60, you could fit 2 more down there. You could really get 4 of these in the size of one of the Quilted Witch. So when you cut your pattern in half, your measurements in half, you're actually creating something that is 1/4 of the original size. She did just a super job. This is super cute. So measures 25 by 32. She made a note she wanted to use All Hallows Eve when she did this, which is a Joanna Figueroa pattern, fig tree quilts, not pattern, fabric. And she wanted to make the face and the body, the arms and things of the witch green, so that it was like Elphaba from Wicked. Now, I have to be honest, I'm not familiar with Wicked. I've never seen it. I assume it's a movie. I really don't know. Elphaba. I looked it up I Googled it so I would know how to say that, and I think that's how they said Elphaba. So she wanted to make the skin green like Elphaba, wanted to make it a wall hanging so she could hang it up. Didn't she do a great job? So fun. She said, now some of those pieces were very, very tiny. Can you see this? Look at the size of that. That finished maybe 1.5 inches. Finished. So the little tiny stars on there, I don't know how she did it. She starched. I can tell by the fabrics that she starched, and maybe that has to be done to do those tiny little pieces. So the fabric line is perfect for this. Even her little boots and her patchwork skirt and the pumpkin writing on her arm there does have a green stem. The backing fabric is also from that line. It's a large floral, very pretty. So for the pantograph, she asked for wind water, I believe is the name of this. Yes, wind water. I made it small enough that it went with the feel of the quilt, but not so small that it just, this is already small. So the size of the loops of the waves, I guess you want to say, comes in. They're probably 2-3 inches. I think I can get in close enough. You can kind of see them. So more like the wind is just blowing through. Didn't need to make it super tiny. This the quilt in this one, the fabrics, the design is really carrying the theme of this, and the wind is just an extra thing on top of it. I think it's perfect. The wind was perfect. I did use a cream color thread. The fabrics are a little darker, a little more on the cream side, and that way the pattern and the fabrics really shine, and then the quilting is secondary once you get up closer. So cute, Trish. You did a great job. A great job on this one. You're going to have lots of people trying this now. I have 2 quilts by Maria. This first one is called Meditation, and it is by Cozy Quilts Design. This measures 75 by 92. You have large, so you have 9 patches. Can you see that? Let me find one. So a couple different kinds. Here we have a 9 patch, but it's not the same. It's almost like a 4 patch with sashing in between, and then you have 4 patches on the corner. This one is more of a complete patchwork block here. There's some others, so you can kind of see these. Then there's some sashing. This is all set on point. You can kind of see that right there. So there's 4 squares or 4 patches on the corners, and then the sashing is a little skinnier than those are. Lots of negative space. Pull this in. Lots of negative space with the solid colored setting squares, and then, or setting triangles, and then there's a blue border. Again, the background fabric is just a creamy solid, and then love this print. This fabric is from 3 Sisters. This is called Sister Bay, a 2011 line. So there was a little bit of this left on Etsy when I looked earlier, but you may just have to recreate it in your own fabrics and may not be able to find that same one. And the backing fabric is also from that line. It's more of a sage green color, a little bit of that same print on the front. Really like this, just very soothing, a very cool feeling quilt. You know, almost like a nautical type, ocean type, just feels very fun. The pantograph on this one is Saffron Blossom, and you see that on the white. So we wanted it small enough that you could really see it in the negative space. So the saffron blossom is kind of like a water lily sitting. It has 3 petals that kind of sit flat, and then it spins out, does 3 other petals, just individual ones, and then it goes right into the saffron blossom again. I use the cream color Omni, which is 3004. On this one, the cream blends in with these fabrics amazingly well, and then it just creates all of that texture in the open spaces. So pretty. Love that. And then the cream, this is a pre-wound bobbin on the back in the cream color, and it just blends really nicely with that fabric. I love this. This would be so pretty on a bed. So pretty. Very inviting just to lay down and take a nap. Very cute. So Maria did a wonderful job. And I forgot to mention on Maria's quilt, that meditation one, that is from Cozy Quilt Designs, and you can go to their website to download the pattern, but you can also see the fabric requirements. And I printed those off because this is all done with 2.5-inch strips, so that entire line. So if you have jelly rolls that you want to use, that entire quilt. So, and it goes everything from a lap size, which is a 48 by 64, all the way up to a king size, 108 by 108. And you can print off the fabric requirements so that you can get those together and then buy the pattern so that you can get going as soon as that arrives. And I don't know, maybe it was available for a PDF as well. I didn't look that closely. So, but that's meditation. All right. All right, let's move on to Maria's second quilt, and this is Layer Cake Loop, and this is a free pattern from the Fat Quarter Shop. She said she did a little bit of a variation, but so I went to look on Fat Quarter Shop for that pattern. Layer Cake Loop obviously uses layer cakes. Now she has made it much larger. Her quilt measures, I just lost that one, it measures 85 by 85. The pattern that I found is actually for a 48 by 48. It uses 1 print layer cake or 36 10-inch squares. So what Maria has done is just increase the pattern and made it the size that she wanted. This is a free pattern on the Fat Quarter Shop website, but when I went to look for this one, I discovered that there are a whole host of free layer cake patterns on the Fat Quarter Shop. Look at all these that I found. I didn't even print them all. There was like 16 different free patterns that all use layer cakes. Most of the ones on these are about what I would say is a small throw size or a baby size, lap size quilt, 48 by 60, 60 by 60, 56 by 56, so about that size, 48 by 60, somewhere around on that. But you'll have to go look these up. These were so fun. And again, I didn't print them all out, but Layer Cake Pop was one, Layer Cake Crumble. I've done one similar to that before. This one is Layer Cake Latte, Layer Cake Shake, Layer Cake Links. I think I've done that one before. I think I've quilted one like that before. Layer Cake Lemonade. That looks fairly simple. If you're a new quilter and you're just wanting to figure all this out, I think you could get either a layer cake, or this one takes 40 10-inch squares. You get 40, cut them 10-inch squares that coordinating, and that would be a super simple, easy quilt to start with, and it's a free pattern. So there's Layer Cake Tumble. That one kind of gives that effect of the diagonal coming down. I know we had one a while back, but it was actually 5-inch squares. So if you're looking for something like that, that would be a good one. And maybe you'd have to look. Maybe there's a charm pack. I'm sure Fat Quarter Shop has free patterns for charm packs as well. But if you have layer cakes that you're wanting to use and don't know how to do it, go to Fat Quarter Shop, find these free patterns. I will link them down below. Not all of them. I will link this Layer Cake Loop and then maybe just a general search for layer cake free patterns on there. So I like the pattern. It kind of uses all of the prints that you'd have, puts them in a cohesive design, and she has used all Dwell fabrics by Camille Roskelley. And hers measures 85 by 85. I think I mentioned that. So Dwell had some, you have your typical blues and greens of Camille Roskelley, but then you have some reds thrown in, some red florals you can see throughout, some red stripes, some small reds, pink polka dots, then you've got the polka dots and all the other colors too. Very, very fun. This feels very summery. Kind of a nautical, I guess, too, in a little bit, but with the reds thrown in, it kind of gives me more of the summertime, Memorial Day to July 4th type of feel to it. So hers measures 85 by 85. I think that's the third time I've said that. But very fun. Perfect for a large bed. And then on the backing, I'm not sure if this is this does not remind me of Camille Roskelley, but it could be. It's green with a lighter gray floral to it, a smaller one. It could be part of that line. I'm not sure. Thread color, I did use white on this one. A lot of the background fabrics are white, even the low volumes. They have a little bit of a polka dot with them, but they are a white print, and this quilt felt very much lighter and airier than a couple others earlier. So did use a white thread on this one, and the pantograph on this one is, had to look it up because I did not write it down on her form. This is Whisper. I like Whisper. So I think you can see it there on the white a little bit. So very similar to the Wave on Wave that we had just a little bit ago. Whisper has a spiral, but it adds in these bubbles in here too. I think that's a playful print. The bubbles just gives it a little more fun. I like that. Very kind of chunky, which I think goes really well with this quilt. You've got a lot of open spots that you can see the quilting, but not the entire quilt. So I think you're just seeing pops of it in here, and then on the florals it kind of blends in, the stripes it kind of blends in, and then you see the pops of the quilting in these open spaces, and I really like that. Really like that. So fun. Very cute. This will be very pretty on a bed as well. So fun. Maria, you did a great job. Thank you so much for being here with me today. It's been a joy to share these things with you. Customer quilts are so fun. You are all so talented. I enjoy so much being a part of your journey, and I will be back next week, as I am every week, because every quilt is worth finishing. We'll see you next week.